Hello, everybody, wherever you are, and welcome to another DCT Recruitment's Icing on the Career Cake. And today we're joined by Phil, who immediately, if you are watching this, is surrounded by paraphernalia that looks like you have something to do with running or athletics, etc. I can see a GBR vest in the background there, Phil.
Oh, I'm very proud. Yeah, I'm very proud of that. What it is, because I'm a proud member now, and have been for about 4 years, of Team GB. Now,
Wow.
you're gonna look at me and go, "Are you having a laugh?"
No, not at all. Listen, I've met some amazing members of Team GB. So that look all sorts of shapes and sizes. So tell us about it.
I'll tell you about it. So Team GB, what it is, for a number of years, I've always been involved in, weekend warrior, triathlons, 10Ks, football, sporty stuff, even the New York Marathon, and then on to triathlon, which is run, swim, run. And my weakest point has always been the swim. And I thought, I need to pick up, I really need to learn how to do the front crawl properly and efficiently without like gagging for breath after half of a length, which is what I was. Because unless you got the breathing right, forget it. You can have strong legs and a six pack and muscles coming out of your ear, but if you're not breathing properly on the front crawl, you very quickly come to an abrupt halt. Anyway, so I went to a coach in Liverpool, and he turned out to, as it turned out, he was he'd been in Team GB and he used to train the triathletes. And he said to me, "Do you fancy entering into Team GB?" And of course, we all think of the Olympics, don't we? And I think, I'm 70 this year. He said, no, I'm thinking of the Team GB Masters, Graham. There's Team GB Masters. So we got the Team GB Juniors, so they're on the way up, and then we have what we know of Team GB with Jessica Ennis and all the rest of it, and the Olympics. And then when those members get about the 30s and that, and so they're past the best, but they're still competing. So they become Team GB Seniors in the 30s. But then look, you've got what's now known as the Team GB Masters. So Team GB Masters A are in the 40s, B, C, and D, so that's me in the 70s. So I'm Team GB Masters D. Now, here's the interesting thing. The Team GB is now looking at introducing another category. I was telling Diane about it last week. Team GB Masters E, so 80 plus.
Wow.
So people in their 80s, Graham, they're still obviously, not as fast as they were, but they still want to compete, but to compete with people of their own age group. And what a message that is for the kids these days. What a message.
Absolutely. And what motivation to you, Phil? You just need to keep going, get into E, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a whippersnapper now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Basically, you're in training for E when it comes about.
Exactly. I'm in training. That's it, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I know it's brilliant, actually, that there is now that diversity in there, and all different ones. I have another client who's an ex-Team GB from the Paralympic world.
Oh, yes. Oh, hats off.
And he's absolutely amazing. He captained the England football team, blind England football team.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched that, to watch a group of blind people play football and know where they're running, know where to kick a ball, it's just absolutely unbelievable. They are.
It's just to think about it. It's funny you should say that, because Diane and I are in a networking group, and each of the groups has its own charity. The charity which is in our group is a Liverpool-based charity for the visually impaired, called Bradbury Fields. And the guy who's in charge there, Matt, he's like Team GB, but for baseball.
Yeah.
They do baseball, so and you think, I mean, it's tough enough keeping your eye on the ball when you can see, and we have to run in the right direction and listen, and it's as if, look, I can't see, but that's not going to stop me. What an attitude that has. Well, that is. imagine if everyone in work had that attitude, we would be ruling the world. Like, can do.
That's something that's something I love about working with Adge, is that he's got this whole philosophy, and he goes into schools, right? And he teaches young kids. And what he mainly does, it's awareness training, but at the same time, it's teaching that attitude that there is no obstacle.
Yes.
You know, there is no obstacle. So tell us about how you got here, Phil. Tell us about what obstacles have you overcome along the journey?
Well, do you know what? I think, like most people, I had a very, 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 very lucky life. I think for a start, if you're born in the UK, you've drawn a lottery ticket. You know, absolutely we have. The way the things have been for us, and still are to a large extent compared to other countries. So I'm always very, very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the fact that I come from a nice, steady family. You know, 5 of us, a nice tight family unit. Always been at work, and I'd worked until I was 50 years of age. And then over a period of 6 or 8 or 12 months, I thought, you know what, I will not keep doing this job for the next 15 years until I'm 65. I grew out of love with it. It was a lovely Liverpool-based company. It did really well in our line of business throughout the UK, private sector and public sector, developing computerized pensions administration systems. And then we were taken over by a number of firms, and it just changed the profile of the company completely. And I thought, no, not for me. And so I started looking, as a lot of people do, just for their own. They think, you know what, I've learned enough now. I'm 50. I can make out on my own. So I looked for another opportunity, which you do. You go onto the internet, have a look around, and then you see all sorts of stuff coming through, which isn't for you. And as it turned out, I had a response from a couple who actually run their own Herbalife nutrition business. I'd never heard of Herbalife. I knew that nutrition was here to stay, good nutrition, and that caught my eye. And that was it. I never looked back. So I've been running my own nutrition business since 2001 now, 20 odd years. And I must say, I've landed on my feet, because for me, it's a perfect fit, and it suits me down to the ground. Now, look, that doesn't mean when you set off on your own in your own business that everything is sweetness and light and everybody wants your product and all the rest of it. It's Diane knows, it's a hell of a change. It's, you know, from when you're at work, if you need a piece of paper or a pencil or something, you go to the cupboard for it. You need to make a telephone call, you pick up the phone. When it's your own business, you've got to buy your own phone, buy your own pencil, buy your own paper. It's a very, very different mindset. But so that in itself, as you say, Graham, that is a challenge. You know, you're used to a way of working for all of your working life, and all of a sudden, oh, hang on, that tremendous structure is no longer there. So you build your own structure, and you build your own self. And, you know, a few mistakes along the way, but we end up where we are today. Yeah.
You're on mute, Graham.
I was going to say, I don't even know how that happened. It's interesting the way you defined it, because you said I worked up until this age, and then.
Yes.
So you don't see this as work, right?
That's true. Yes. Yes. You're right. You know. Yeah, of course it is work. It's bloody hard work, but there's joy in it. There's joy in it. And when I say joy, I'm not being pedantic. There's joy in it rather than pleasure. Pleasure, you can have pleasure just reading a book or watching a telly, or so you can have pleasure on your own. Joy involves other people. When there's joy, there's more than one person about. And that Di's business is very similar, very, very interactive. Di's dealing with employers, prospective employees. There's a load of chemistry going on, and it's, oh wow. There's no, I say no 2 days are the same. Well, of course, the similarities, but when you're mixing with people all day, every day, oh wow, that keeps the kettle boiling, Di, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
So,
joy.
you know, Phil was one of the, Graham's worked with a couple of Herbalife coaches, haven't you, Graham, on the social media and stuff. But Phil was one of the first founders in Liverpool. So how he probably does it to how some of them do it now with like the wellness clinics and things is a little bit different. It is a lot more one-to-one, isn't it, for yourself, Phil? So.
Yes. Yeah, when I got started, it was always one-to-one stuff, Graham. And then obviously and then maybe some of the mates would come around or the family come around. So it'd be one to many, maybe 1 to 2 or 3. And then I would go into companies and businesses and sports clubs. But it's always that, it's always been me amongst other people. And of course, there's different business models. People run nutrition clubs now and wellness clinics. But for me, I prefer it this way. And it stood the test of time anyway. It's fine this way for me. Yeah.
That's great that actually within that structure, because there is a structure to the sort of company structure that you're in there, the Herbalife, etc., that you can find your own path, as it were, that you can find a way of doing it that suits you, as opposed to necessarily having to do it exactly the same as everybody else.
Yes, of course, yes. Yeah, definitely. But structure is important. And I think for people just getting started in business, it's easier for them to fall from one sort of employment structure into another structure, which might be in the form of a wellness clinic or a nutrition club, where you're learning from other practiced hands and you're listening and watching them at work. But back in the day, you're like, okay, there's plenty of formal and informal training, but at the end of it, you're in front of the general public and you sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Do you like, I know I've got to ask Diane, do you like structure or do you like?
Yeah. No, I get frustrated by people who are disorganized. So yeah, I like coming from a background for 22 years of where everything was military operation, everything was structured, everything this. Yeah, like the same for in our business. There's a process to follow to register a candidate. There's a process to follow to onboard a client. There's so if you don't follow them processes, then you could get your fingers burned. So process and structure catches you when you fall. I think if you've got them in place. So like for us, for instance, we've got to have a lot of compliance, to make sure everybody's legally can work and stuff. So on our system, if you haven't got the right documentation, it wouldn't let you make the candidates what we call live. So you couldn't send them out to work because you couldn't send them a booking confirmation. So if you chose to send that candidate to work, so if one of my employees did that, they knowingly know that they've sent that person to work incorrectly because they haven't got that information on the system. So you then will be able to discipline that person, obviously, because they haven't followed the process. And they obviously have e-learning modules and stuff and training and stuff to give them that. So yeah, I think big businesses, the reason they're successful is because they have the right foundations in place from the beginning.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you need that structure. Yeah, you do need that structure in order to, as you say, be successful, to ensure that you're doing things the right way, that other people that come into the business know what they're doing, etc. as well. At the same time, and this is maybe and this is where smaller businesses can really succeed sometimes, is that you can disrupt the structure. You can actually disrupt an industry and say, I'm going to do something different from everybody else. And you have more of that autonomy and power to do that. And I think it's knowing when to be able to do that. But that is part of the fun of it as well, isn't it? For when you run your own business. Is that part of the fun that you've had, Phil, in terms of running this nutrition business?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you put your own fingerprint on it. And so, but you need a structure and guidelines and very firm rules. Because with network marketing, so businesses like Herbalife, which depends upon, obviously Herbalife looks after its own product development and takes great pride in being a business for that long and operating all around the world and developing, top grade products. However, because these products aren't sold in the shops anywhere, never have been, and hopefully never will be, because the products come with a person. It's very difficult for a global organization like Herbalife to manage the day-to-day operations of what its distributors say about the products. They'll be making daft claims and, oh, use these products and you won't be ill anymore, and all sorts of, claims about you'll be cured from cancer. People do say stupid things. Now then, if that is reported, then you are in serious trouble. You're going to have to justify yourself. And if that structure weren't there, then the whole business will collapse. It will lose its credibility. And it goes for all network marketing companies. All good network marketing companies have top-class products and services. The problem that they've got as companies is managing the distributorship or the members who represent them, because they're not employed by them, they're self-employed. And so it's a hell of a job, actually. It's a bit like a family which is out of control.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's structures, like when we're children, we learn within the structure, there's guidelines that, we learn to walk and fall over. And failing just is like part of the journey, isn't it? You fall over, you get up again. You fall over, you walk 2 steps, and everybody claps and gives you a cuddle. But you don't go near the fire, so there's a structure. And the world has to be structured, but you need that, like an informal, loose structure, which allows you to put your own fingerprint on it too, without upsetting people or breaking sensible rules anyway.
Well, come on, we need to. The $1 million question that we're all wanting to ask now is: can you use your Team GB newfound glory and fame to help with your nutrition?
Oh, absolutely.
So, yes, great.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, of course, my existing client base love it. They have, and you would do, wouldn't you? If someone who's been looking after you and your family, helping them with the nutrition for the past 10, 15 years, at the tender age of in the 70s, is now wearing a Team GB kit. Okay, it's Team GB Masters, but it's still Team GB. They love it. Well in, Phil. Fantastic, mate. You're like an ambassador then. You talk about walking the talk, Graham. Of course it is. You walk it's not an easy thing to do. Otherwise everyone would be doing it. But it's just an indication that if you do take care of your nutrition and your lifestyle generally, then you can get a lot more out of your life than perhaps we've all been led to expect. Like when you get to your 40s, or I'm in my 40s. Oh my word, 40s. I'm in my 70s. I'm still a whippersnapper. I've got Team GB Masters E to look forward to.
You have.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Like I think that's an accolade. That you are so fit and healthy for your age. I know, like, I've started working with Phil, and it makes you think, right? It's obviously works because he's done it for 20 years. And he's still as fit and healthy as he is now. He'd probably be able to beat me in any triathlon. So it's like it just shows. But in the nutrition, you've got to have structure as well, haven't you, Phil? So it comes hand in hand. You've got to be quite self-disciplined, haven't you? With your nutrition, with your health. To make sure you look after yourself, and that's something that this year I'm trying hard to do, is try and focus some of the energy that I put into my work life into my own personal life to get that better balance. Do you know what I mean? Because the first few years business is just go, isn't it? And now, you need to take stock of yourself and look at yourself, because if I don't keep myself fit and healthy, then there'll be no business. So it's looking at both sides of the coin, isn't it?
For sure. And we were talking about this last week, Diane and I. We were saying that Diane likes to swim, and we said, okay, so let's get these swimming sessions booked into your diary, but to treat it like a business appointment. It's a business meeting. It's not something that can slip and slide. It's got to be there. And so there's discipline and there's a nice structure.
Yeah.
I have to say, as a much, much older 53-year-old man than I used to be when I was young and playing sport all of the time, that I get these sort of sports coaches and fitness coaches, especially on LinkedIn, come up all of the time, and they really put me off. Right? They really put me off doing anything, because for a start, they send you comparison body models of whatever, and they go, your body's probably a bit like this now, with the odd love handle here and there, and whatever, and wouldn't you want to look like this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to look like that. I really don't. I don't want a six pack. I don't want muscles in my forehead and all of that. Now, you see, I have to say, I would find you, Phil, and this isn't being rude to you, but I'd find you a much more attractive proposition in terms of saying to me, perhaps we could do fitness here, because I just feel like you'd be kind to me a bit more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying there?
No, he is. Yeah. He's a lot more pragmatic. He's a lot more practical. The way he's taught me is simpler. So it's taken step by step that you can put habits in place that then can continue in your lifestyle. Because if you try and do it all straight away, we fall. And I've done that probably most of my life, yo-yo dieted all the time. And what you need to do now is just change, your life, change your habits, make sure that it just becomes your daily routine. And the only way you're going to do that is, I enjoy swimming more than running. So I'm like, right, well, I'll trying to go swimming in a couple of times a week. And, if I put it in my diary, I'll probably commit to it more, because I wouldn't, you know what I mean? If it had meetings in my diary, then you'll go. So it is trying to structure your home life in the same way as well, because you can get so caught up, can't you, in one or the other, I think.
And you can get, when you said, Graham, about, I went onto LinkedIn to look for such and such, as soon as we do that, we go onto LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever and express an interest, all of a sudden we're bombarded with information on that topic.
Yep.
And it can overwhelm us and make think, do you know what? I can't cope with this. This is just too much. And so I think if you can find a method or somebody to work with where it's straightforward, it's relatable, it's manageable, it's not complicated. Because nutrition itself, the more we go into it, it is very complex matter when you start going into biochemistry and all of that. And I learned very early on that, because I've always, see, at uni, I did maths and physics and maths and science. So, a bit bookish in that sense. And I would love the detail. And I find myself talking about a bit too much detail about nutrition to my customers early days. And I could see them glazing over. And Barbara said to me, my missus, she said, Phil, I know you know a lot, but these people coming in to see you, they've done a day's work, they're tired. And it's just, I can see that, like, they're coming in, okay, but they're looking more tired on the way out because you've overwhelmed them. And so, you know what? The spectator sees more than the crowd. Yeah. People don't want people do not want a biochemistry lesson from someone, but just to help them with the nutrition and lifestyle. They got a couple of problems. They're trying to manage the weight. They're tired and they're completely confused and bewildered by the first things are good for you, the next week they're not good for you. First, fats are bad, and now they're good. Well, what are the good fats and bad fats? And then there's this, and then there's that. So I think I've learned pretty quickly, but also the hard way, that keep it simple, keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Nutrition hasn't changed an awful lot over the centuries and millennia. We all need good hydration, sensible amount of protein and fiber, all the vitamins and minerals and that, but also things like Diane and I talk about an eating schedule. Everyone, a lot of people have heard of the expression intermittent fasting, so that we don't need to be eating and grazing from the moment we wake up till an hour before we go to bed. And just understanding what happens within the body when we stop eating, and we call that fasting. So if we stop eating for 5 minutes, we have been on a 5-minute fast, because we're not taking any calories on board. And so I like to get that message across, because when people hear about intermittent fasting, they think, oh my God, I'm going to be starving to death all day. But it's not, it's just managing our eating schedule so that, for example, if we can consume all of our nutrients and everything that we need to eat and drink within, say, an 8-hour window each day, or most days, 8 hours, Graham, we've got 8 hours to consume all we need for the rest of the day and the night. So that leaves 16 hours, half of which roughly we're asleep. And so that means for 16 hours each day, most days, the body has a chance to start burning off all the blood sugars, burning off all the sugar reserves, which are held in the liver and the muscle in a form called glycogen, which is very quickly converted into blood sugars. And only then, when every ounce of sugar and sugar reserves have been used up, only then does the body turn to fat for its energy. So we then go into fat burning. And so the longer we can do that, comfortably and sensibly, the better. But also, we were chatting to Diane last week about there's something else that happens several hours into fat burning. And it's what we think of as detoxing. The body then starts to detoxify itself. And this process was identified and understood as recently as 2016, less than 10 years ago. And it was a Japanese scientist who actually found out exactly what for years and years we've been calling detoxing. And it's been given he was given the Nobel Prize for this, by the way. So, you don't get that for being good at tiddlywinks. He obviously identified something very, very important. And it was given the name, the medical term, autophagy. Autophagy. Auto meaning automatic, so the body does automatic. Phagy coming from the word phagicide, which is the elimination and the death of cells. Now, look, thankfully, it's not brain cells. It's damaged and unhealthy cells. That's what autophagy is, or detox. So several hours into fat burning, the body then takes on the damaged and unhealthy cells, which have been starved of energy for several hours, because damaged and unhealthy cells cannot survive on fat. They survive solely and thrive exclusively on sugar. But look, the blood sugars have been burned up several hours ago, and they've now been sort of starving to death for several hours. And this is when the SAS move in at 2 a.m. in the morning, say, when the enemy is fast asleep and on its knees. This is how the body works. It takes on these damaged and unhealthy cells, strips any remaining nutrients from them, redistributes those amongst the rest of the healthy cells, and eliminates these damaged and unhealthy cells. It's called autophagy or detox. But it only takes place several hours into fat burning. So we get up in the morning, 7 o'clock, say, oh, okay, I need me coffee, I need me toast, I need me muffin, I need this. And then I'm constantly grazing and eating throughout the day. I finish off at tea time, then I have some supper. I mean, we've built up we've taken on board an awful lot of energy there, a lot of calories. And let's face it, we're not going out fighting battles every day or turning over the field like farmers. Most of us aren't doing that. And so a lot of this energy is just stored in the form of excess body fat. Are we giving our body enough time to burn off all the sugars that have been accumulated during the day?
Oh, lost him for a second.
I thought that was me then.
What I want to know then, Phil, is you say that you do it your own way, and I totally understand that, which is good, and you've done it, if you like, the old-fashioned way for years. Have you had to embrace modern technology at all in terms of more recently, in terms of your business model at all? I mean, I'd love to see Phil on the TikTok, as I heard someone call one dad call it the other day, but I'd love to see a Phil TikTok. I'd watch that.
Oh, a TikTok. No, I'll tell you what, Graham. I'll tell you what was a godsend, and it's all to do with modern technology, as you say, on the internet. During a year or so before lockdown, the company introduced for the entire membership, each of us has access to our own online shop. So the company developed this online shop so the customers could order from us. So it still says Phil, fantastic, and all that on the shop. They know it's me. They order what they want when they want, and it gets delivered to them from the Herbalife warehouse within the day or so. And can you imagine how helpful that was when lockdown?
Yeah, right.
Oh my word! So people could still buy products, and so that was, as you say, embracing technology. Oh, we were so grateful for that. Yeah, that was important. And you see, often with global companies like Herbalife, they look at what methods and business practices which work around the world. This one works in Israel. This one works in, in Japan. This one works in America, and then you can then try and adapt them to your own method of working. And some of them work, some of them don't. But if you're not careful, you can't be chopping and changing all of the time. So 1 minute is this business practice, and the next minute is that, and it not only confuses me, but also the customers. So I've kept it the same way. It's all about, very much, Herbalife is very much like a lot of good companies. It's all about great products, of course. You have to take that for granted, otherwise no one's going to buy them. But good quality, personal, reliable, and consistent service. Now, whatever the business model is around that, providing customers feel that they're getting that, whether it's one-on-one or you're in a larger nutrition group, or they might be seeing me when I go out to companies to talk, as long as it's very personable and consistent and helpful. One of the ladies, there's a law firm in Liverpool, and one of the ladies, these days, well, there used to be just scales that you would stand on, and they'll just tell you your weight. Well, now, of course, there's what we call body composition scales, and you stand on them, and you pull something and hold it. It tells you your hydration levels and your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, your metabolic age, and all of that. And it does it by sending small little signals up, radio signal, or whatever signals they are, up and down your body, and interpreting them. Very, very clever. So it helps you to measure your body composition, 10 or so different metrics each week or whenever you do it. Now, there was a lady in this law firm, and she was an amputee, and so she had a prosthetic limb, and so and you're meant to stand on these scales in bare feet, so your skin is in contact. Of course, that was no good for her, and so we just used another device, which is just a handheld device, which would give you similar reading. So yeah, technology definitely comes to the rescue, because it's very important not to be hung up on weight and weight alone, and weight should be the only metric by which you measure your health status or your improvement. Because I'll tell you what, there's something I always share with my customers, Graham. So I 20 odd years ago, I was out of shape, out of condition, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. Okay, like a lot of people. My weight then was 11 stone, or 70 kilograms if you like, and it's changed by a stone. So instead of 11 stone, what do you think it is now?
Oh, okay, you're 12 stone.
Yeah, or 10 stone, isn't it?
Right.
It's changed by stone, so it's either up or down. Here's the answer. I'm still 11 stone.
All right.
So when I say changed by a stone, I dropped about 7 or 8 pounds of unwanted body fat and that, but then I gained a different 7 or 8 pounds of better hydration, more lean tissue and muscle, better quality bone mass, and so the weight is the same. But it's the body composition, it's the shape, the tone, the energy, that type of thing. I remember going to the doctor years ago for something, probably about 15 years ago, and I went on the scales. He says, "Oh, your BMI is high, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I think it is higher than average." And then he sort of, the GP shook his head as to say, and I think, look, it's a height to weight ratio. If I look at the rugby union guys, they are in the obese scale from a BMI point of view. Because most people of that height and weight, all that weight isn't lean tissue and muscle and strong bones.
I know that. I know that for a feeling. Yeah.
Well, that's why BMI, it's a good indication, but it can be very misleading for for the sporty types or the more serious, for very strong men and women.
For years now, when I've gone to the doctor and the doctor's told me what my BMI is and then what sort of weight I should get to, I've been like, if I was that weight, I'd look, and I know because I have been there, I would look like a waif. I'd be skin and bones, literally.
Skin and bone. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not skin and bones now, and I probably could do with losing some weight because my body composition is probably about 80% water, 15% coffee, and 5% Haribo. I'd say that's a fairly accurate body composition. But there you go. I'm doing some stuff to try and address that as we speak. But yeah, it's but so let's talk about, because you mentioned and you went into great detail about the fasting thing.
Oh yes, sorry.
But why do our brains do that? Why do our brains do that? I mean, we do it. We wake up in the morning. We immediately, I mean, it's fairly obvious on the coffee tea side of things. It's caffeine. That's addictive. That's why we need. That's why we want that, even though that dehydrates us because it's diuretic. But why do we immediately think food? Why? I mean, we immediately feel hungry, right?
I don't know. I don't wake up hungry.
So I do.
I've never. No, I think maybe for me though, because I always did shift work, your body wasn't in a routine. So, you know, like I don't. So to be fair for me, the easiest part of being able to do with Phil's thing is the fasting part. Like being able to just eat between 11 and 7. The 7 o'clock's the hardest bit for me because like last night I didn't get home till like 8:30 or whatever. So because I do a lot after work. So now I've got to try and prepare and have your meals here, you know, ready before I go to the next event.
See, my wife is like that. She wakes up in the morning. She's like, I'm not bothered about breakfast.
Yeah,
I don't need to do breakfast, whatever. I wake up and I immediately think bacon, egg, sausage, tomato, fried, you know, hash brown, fried bread. I mean that. Sorry, but that immediately comes to my head, right? As if I'm living in a hotel. I'd you know, quite happily have pastries first thing in the morning. I'd quite happily have a bowl of jelly beans straight. I'm really hungry as soon as I wake up. What am I doing wrong? How do I stop myself feeling hungry first thing in the morning?
Okay. Well, first of all, when you said I'll wake up and I'll have a coffee, and coffee dehydrates us, so that's a bad thing. The body will draw water out of coffee. Yeah. Now then, also it is, as you know, it's what they call a diet.
Not much with my coffee. You could stand a spoon in it.
But even stuff like the body will draw water from milk.
Right.
When you think of you know, new babies, they survive on mother's milk or formula milk for weeks, several weeks, maybe a couple of months. Can't remember. It's been a long time. So the body needs water. So the body will draw water from wherever it can. So tea, coffee. So when you're doing your fasting, though, it's just the trick is to avoid calories. And if you have a black coffee, well, there's a black coffee. There's practically no calories in it.
Yeah, sure.
So you get your caffeine boost. You're not going to be breaking your fast, which is what breakfast is, by the way, isn't it? You break your fast. But no harm in if you could have like a shift work, a work pattern whereby you need to eat within half an hour of getting up because you're at the house, and then you're in for full days manual work, you know. So but still the 16-8 rough, that sort of 16-8 rule, you can still eat within an 8-hour window. If you start at 7 a.m. and 8 hours after that is like, okay, it's 3 o'clock, isn't it? 7 and 8 is 15. So so you will then stop your eating because if you've been consuming well for 8 hours, that's enough for anybody. Yeah, that's enough for practically anybody. When you start and end is up to you, and it doesn't need to be exactly 8 hours, of course, but it's a very useful guideline because you're then giving your body these 15 or 16 hours, burn through the sugars, burn through the fats, go through the detox process, wake up, and then break your fast whenever it is appropriate. And I used to think that, hang on, I'll be skipping breakfast if I don't start until 11 a.m. And breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
That's what they always told you, wasn't it? They told you that.
But it doesn't. Breakfast doesn't need to start at 7 a.m. Breakfast is when we break our fast. So you break your fast whenever's good for you. You're still having that meal, but a bit be pushing along a bit. But also, it is very, very important to keep well hydrated from as soon as we wake up. So, okay, drink the water, have some black coffee if you want. Keep yourself well hydrated. But so fruit, for example, you wouldn't have fruit because all the sugar's going in.
Mm.
But give yourself roughly an 8-hour window most days. Make sure you're having sensible amount of protein and a variety of protein. And understand where protein comes from. Understand where fiber comes from. And if you can, pay a lot of attention to fiber. Fiber, you've heard of gut health, healthy bacteria, microbiome, and all of this. The body is like riddled with bacteria, and most of it is good bacteria, thankfully. And good bacteria is absolutely essential to the maintenance of a strong immune system. Now, guess what food group healthy bacteria absolutely thrives on? And it's the F word.
Fiber.
Did you say fiber then?
Yeah.
Fiber's our friend. And where does fiber come from? Exclusively from plant. Not from meat or fish or dairy or cheese or yogurt or whatever. Plant. So fruit, veg, nuts and seeds. Plant. That's where the fiber comes from. Now, the old expression, a meat and some veg. Now that's as old as the hills are. But think about the proportion. A meat, a portion of protein. 2 portion of veg. So be generous with the veg, and it's as old as the hills. That, and it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes for a reason.
Yeah,
the veg gives us energy in the form of good quality, what they call more complex carbs. So the sugar breaks down, more slowly over time, thanks to the fiber content. Protein, of course. Protein. When you say you wake up hungry, it's very likely that your diet is very likely to be a bit low on protein, because protein, amongst other things, protein kills hunger.
Right.
Protein kills hunger. If there's no, that's why you can't live on what they used to mockingly call rabbit food, or not eating all that rabbit food, But okay, we can't survive on celery and tomatoes and lettuce, but plant food is also protein rich. There's plenty of protein rich plants and oils, healthy oils and fiber. So just think about be more of the protein in your diet if you wake up hungry.
I hear everything you say.
Reduce the Haribo's sugar.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the Haribo's at the moment. I did wonder, and we won't cover this here and now, but I do wonder whether part of it's to do with what your brain's doing while you're sleeping as well, right? And I've been talking about this online this week, because my brain is going to the hilt 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
Yes.
And I literally wake up with you get some people on social media and they wake up and they go, I've got nothing to talk about today. I've got no ideas. My literally my brain all night long is going, there's an idea. There's an idea. There's an idea. Do that with a business, start that, make that happen. It's non-stop. So I do wonder whether I've done a marathon in my brain before I even get up in the morning, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And whether that has any impact on the fact that I'm hungry, because maybe I literally have in my brain run a marathon.
Well, the brain is one of the biggest consumers of calories, the brain.
There you go. That's what it is. My brain's consuming calories all night long.
You're
all
starving.
Night long. It's there.
You're starving when you wake up.
I am. Yeah, I'm dancing on the ceiling.
What could you do more, Graham? Could you stop eating at 3 o'clock, or could you have your breakfast later?
I currently what I am doing is I am currently not eating until about 12.
Yeah,
that's what that is what I'm doing, and then I am taking on a whole meal in a glass, which is what I'm doing, and then I'm eating. I'm trying to eat in the evening. I'm trying to eat a less carb based diet.
Yes, good man. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. So tonight, for example, I am cooking. This is good for any of you out there wanting to know my. So I'm cooking chili con carne.
Yes.
But I'm having it with cauliflower rice, not rice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
that's where I'm going with it at the moment, and I'm not doing the Haribo. Other sweets are available, but they are my nemesis. Fizzy sweets, full stop, would be my nemesis.
Well, yes, they're addictive. So between the hour that you wake up and when you have your breakfast a bit later, what are you consuming then?
Between when I wake up and midday,
You presume then on midday.
I'm literally I'm having a drink, and that's it.
Of what?
I'll have some coffee.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, because I have to feed my addiction.
Yeah.
And well, today I've had water and coffee. That's it. Look, there's the water. There's the coffee.
So when you say I'm not going to lie,
sorry?
So when you say I'm not going to lie, I have to feed my addiction, what else do you have then?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna lie. I'll have coffee and then I'll have water. That's it.
Well, yeah. So what's the problem though?
I'll tell you when I get there. Whether it's worked or not. I'll tell you where the thing is that we have. Okay, here's the other thing. We have times like Easter and whatever, and then people buy you stuff that's rubbish, and you eat it because you've got it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
It would.
You have to take it on the chin. That's just the way it is.
But this is the problem, right? My life is full of all of these occasions when people buy you stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem, folks. If you want to be healthy and slim and good looking and whatever when you get older, don't have a big family.
I was going to say, Graham's got 4 kids, Phil. So
no, I've got 5 kids. 5 kids.
Oh, 5, sorry.
5 kids. Because there's always a birthday, always a birthday, always an occasion, always something going on. And that is disastrous, right? Don't do it.
If you stay with roughly along the lines that you're doing now, those like irresistible temptations which currently haunt you, I promise you, they go.
Cool.
They go, because once your body becomes accustomed to different habits, and because they are good, healthy habits, your body will love them for you, and you will find that whereas a whole Easter egg probably wouldn't touch the side previously.
No, it wouldn't. That's about a minute and a half, a whole big Easter egg.
Yeah. So you will find, everybody says that over a period, that irresistible temptation isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But Diane said before, you need discipline, and you need patience, and you need a structure, and you need, for me, a strong, emotionally compelling reason why.
I
Because
totally
as you
agree.
say, there's 1,000 why nots. There's all the family occasions. There's all of this, and we have to ride them, but don't be ridden by them. Go with it. Join in. You're not going to starve to death, but portion control, mindful of where your goals are, how you want to look, how you want to feel, and you think, look, I'm going to eat tomorrow. This isn't my last opportunity to eat.
Do you know what, Phil? I love you. I think you've been one of the most great people ever to talk to about nutrition, because you're so down to earth and so realistic. And I think that's what makes you great. I think it's a shame if you're not on the TikTok, because I honestly think, in the same way that my young lad says that I make YouTube for old people, you could do the old TikTok for old people, and I think loads of people would absolutely love it. I think you'd be viral, Phil. I think you'd be into the billions, right? I think you just need to find someone to film it for you, so you don't have to get involved, get your hands dirty. But you could literally talk to camera all day, just give people little tidbits of advice, and I think people would love you for it.
Yeah, 100%. But I would back Phil up on that, since working with him, I probably would have had Easter eggs dead quick prior, and I wasn't really that bothered, And I'm like a bit like you, Graham, like sugar was a bit of an addiction for me, like, you know, and to be fair, you know, I'd rather enjoy, you know, like some, you know, peppers and dip or something like that, do you know what I mean? Something a bit healthier in your mouth. Your taste buds do change over the time you're doing it, where you like, I actually don't enjoy that anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
it will never do anything to stop my addiction of aniseed buttons. But
aniseed buttons, what are they?
Oh, you know, like the little jelly ones that you get in licorice all sorts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
you can buy whole packets of those. Just brilliant. Anything strong like that. Absolutely love that. I'd have it with lettuce, if that helps.
Don't think it's helped your brain going 25 miles an hour.
No, absolutely. Listen, Phil, it's been fantastic talking to you today. Thank you for coming on. Folks, if you've watched this and you are looking for some help and advice around nutrition, in all seriousness, and you want to get some advice that feels down to earth, feels kind of genuine, and doesn't seem too pushy, and he's not going to tell you that you've got to have a six-pack either, right? Then do get in touch with Phil. He'd love to have a chat with you, and I think he'd be a great person to take you through the journey. Phil, thank you so much for joining us on this. Diane, as always, thank you for being here. We will be back soon with more of this, but until then, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.